Welcome back to my channel, professional drivers. I'd like to start this video off with a big thank you to each and every single one of you professional drivers and soon to be professional drivers for stepping up to that plate and keeping this economy rolling. And a huge shout out to each and every single one of y'all who kept this economy rolling through Thanksgiving. It has been 2 or 3 weeks since I released a video and I wanted to give y'all an update. So 2 weeks ago I put my truck in the shop since I was going to be home for the holidays here in South Texas. And my truck is still in the shop. But great news is I have a strong possibility of being able to pick it up tomorrow so I could get back to work. There really hasn't been that much to release considering that I've been down for about 2 weeks. But I figured that this would be a great time to actually go over how my profitability has been since I have been shut down. And you could only imagine my profitability has not been good at all. As a matter of fact, that week leading up to me turning the truck in was actually a very good revenue week. I almost hit 10,000 gross to the truck. All y'all know I get 80% of that. So needless to say, last Friday I had a pretty good paycheck. Lucky me that I turned my truck in the Doggett on a Monday, which that'd be the Freightliner in San Antonio. Well, before I turned it in Monday, I was able to make a last delivery, which would have set me up for the preceding Friday paycheck, and that delivery was $4,000. So actually I had a $4,000 gross to the truck. I get 80% of that. I have operating costs that have to come out of it, so you can only imagine, you know, it's going to be really small, probably in the neighborhood $600-700 after everything is said and done. That's why it's important as a 1099 that you put back, save money for situations like this. And what prolonged the process of getting my truck serviced was I turned it in on the week of Thanksgiving, and they already had a pretty high glut of servicings that they needed to perform for the preceding week. My truck was actually rolled into the shop bay day before yesterday. I'm hoping that tonight the truck will be done and I'm able to pick it up tomorrow for a pretty healthy paying load, possibly going back up north. And once I hit the road, I will utilize the entire weekend to get up there to make the delivery, and I won't come back until the day before Christmas. So quite a bit of stuff has changed in the last 2 weeks since I've been off the road. Very interested to see the fuel pricing when I get back out there on the open road. See how much of that's gonna take a hit out of my pocketbook, since, you know, each settlement, you know, you do have to subtract your fuel out of the profit that you receive at the end of the week. When I came back in, fuel was hovering around that $3.68 to $4 mark, depending on where you were driving at in the country. I think the highest that I've seen it was in PA, Eastern PA, and it was $4.25 at a Pilot, which is substantially high, but we'll see how that goes. But I just want to give a real quick rundown on some of the stuff that I'm having to break down in the shop as far as my servicing goes, which I'm having to break this into two trips. There's some things that I actually ended up cutting out to get me back on the road so it didn't hold me up any longer than when I'm already held up. And then after Christmas sometime, January, February, I could get the truck back in the shop and kind of get the rest of the stuff fixed up on it that I want to get done. But what's happening in the shop right now is I was thinking I had a rear main leak on that DD motor in my Cascadia. It turned out to be a oil pan leak, and I didn't see it, but the backside of the oil pan was leaking, but I knew that I had minor seepage happening on the front side. So lo and behold, the entire oil pan gasket was able to get replaced. I have a problem with the high pressure fuel rail on the truck leaking on the last back few cylinders. And I personally was thinking that maybe the fuel rail was leaking under low pressure conditions after the truck was shut off, but the shop still hasn't been able to confirm that, besides the fact that the fuel rail gaskets needed to be replaced. So we'll see if that fixes the issue. I personally was thinking that we needed to replace the entire fuel rail instead of the gaskets, but we'll see if that definitely mitigates the issue. Another thing that was being serviced was the sensors, or the sensor on the air tank. I had a premature alarm that would go off all the time. Whether I pump the brakes once or twice, the alarm would immediately go off. It wasn't having problems with air supply to the brakes or air supply to any of the chambers or into the tank. Air dryer was good. Everything was good on the entire air system. I just think it was a sensor. It's turned out that it was a sensor, and they were able to get that serviced. About a month ago, I was having issues with the coolant sensor on the radiator reservoir, the filler reservoir on that DD motor. And that sensor, that was a scary one, because at times it would put the truck into an intermittent shutdown, and I had no control over it. As a matter of fact, I would be in traffic and I would get a double check engine light, the truck thinking that, you know, the fluids were depleted in the radiator. All the coolant was gone, so it wanted to shut the truck down immediately. And I don't know what happened, but about the last couple of weeks before I was able to get the truck in, it went away, but it gave me a steady check engine light. So they were able to get that fixed. And I had a couple of HVAC issues with the sleeper and with the Ford. The Ford being independent, running off the motor, and park smart setting without the interior comforts on. It didn't seem like the EPU was working properly to keep the rear cooled down. That's one of the things that will be addressed after Christmas. But yeah, and then of course I had to get another oil change, and then we went ahead and did a radiator flush, since a portion of the radiator was going to be drained for the sensor correction. And the total bill after everything was said and done is $4,800 to have all that fixed. And the only thing that was covered within the spectrum of warranty would be the high pressure fuel rail. Warranty would cover only gasket repairs. So if I wanted to get a whole new fuel rail put on and just not the gaskets, that would have been out of pocket. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that replacing just the gaskets will work. And another thing was I had off of the gasket, off the valve cover gasket on the backside was leaking. That was another one that they addressed, was not covered under warranty. Right before I turned the truck in, I was paying attention heavily to the fuel mileage of the truck under specific loads, and it seemed like for about the last 2 or 3 weeks I was able to haul consistently 40 to 45,000 pounds. I think I may have had like a 36er in the midst of all that, but everything else was between the 4 and the 45. And I was getting on average driving East Coast right at 7 miles to the gallon. And that was with the tailwind, with a headwind, it didn't matter, it was 7. Substantially was able to bring it up about 1 more mpg when I started heading southwest, coming back home. Anywhere out west, I'm looking at about 6 to 6.5, especially in the mountains. I'm doing probably 4.5, 5. Something that I do get asked quite a bit is what am I paying in fuel each week? And religiously, I'm anywhere between $18 and $2,200 a week in fuel cost. And my average gross to the truck has been in the neighborhood of $9,000 to $10,000. I'm always landing between 9 and 10. Here in the next few weeks, I'm gonna have some interesting videos I plan on putting out on my 34s. So you'll have to stay tuned. All right, professional drivers, y'all stay safe out there, because like always, them four-wheelers, They sure do get crazy. Old Rookie, signing off.